Welcome to the From Burnout to Recovery show with your host, Dr. Kate. This is where your journey to burnout recovery starts. Are you feeling overwhelmed or like work has become unmanageable? Join me and my guests for open and honest conversations about burnout recovery from the comfort of the front porch. I am here to help you build your resilience and prepare you for burnout in a whole new way through a variety of perspectives. Move past the idea that burnout can only be addressed by avoidance and work to integrate recovery into your daily life. Relax, take a breath. The From Burnout to Recovery show starts now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the From Burnout to Recovery show with Dr. Kate on Transformation Talk Radio and member of the Cornelius Stephanie Media Group. I am your host, Dr. Kate, and I am excited to welcome you to the show today. Remember, as you are enjoying the show, to hit that subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and be sure to download the KS Media Group app for all the world's best influencers in one place. Today, we are going to be joined by our guest, Renee Schulte. She's a former legislator, therapist, and consultant. She teaches overwhelmed healthcare professionals how to create healthier policies at home, work, and in life. In consulting life, she builds and shapes mental health systems and is frustrated with how health and mental health has become partisan. Renee empowers others to change their message and impact the future of healthcare. Renee, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Oh, well, I am so delighted to have you and talk with you a little bit more. And to get us started, if you would just tell us a little bit more about yourself and the impact burnout has had on your life and your journey to recovery.
Oh, you bet. So my burnout story is a little different than some of your guests in that mine was a physical burnout before I even realized I was burning out. And the story goes back a ways to when right after I was elected, I was out in my consulting world and I was going to run for Congress. And I had a whole plan kicked off like 2 weeks away. And I ended up in the hospital with a severe lung infection for like 2 weeks. And I mean, nobody stays in the hospital for 2 weeks, right? Unless there's something really wrong. And I was really sick and really lost, really confused because like the week before I'm running for Congress, I'm swimming miles and I'm like, what in the world? And what had to happen next was a whole lot of looking backwards to figure out how you get there. And so I had to was really sick. So you would start with recovery immediately and then thinking backwards, put the picture together. So I now have a really good understanding of the burnout that occurred and how I got there. But at that time, I had no idea. I was so blind to all the signals and I was so sick that I was just in kind of shock and amazement that I landed there. And so that ended my entire political career. I didn't kick off. I did not do all the things. And so I just had to start over. And so that created an entire pivot in my trajectory of where I was going and my business and lots of different things all happened from that place. So to go backwards, though, to put that whole story together, it started back when I was elected. And I was a really achievement-focused person, which is quite a typical story on your podcast, and was all about the work and the job and just put all self-care to the side, including things that I absolutely know and had done my entire life. So things like working out, things like eating healthy, getting enough sleep, all those basics, I just pushed them away because I was elected. I was having a great time being elected. I was getting stuff done. I was redesigning mental health systems, doing all the things I wanted to do and thought life was great. Well, what was happening, though, is I started getting a chronic illness in my body and I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and I had a lot of physical pain, but even that didn't even occur to me that was a warning sign. Did not even occur to me. So I took medication. And so I'm on medication and that made me feel better. So then I'm on medication and I'm doing my life. Well, that's how I got this large lung infection. It was a side effect of lowering my immune system. When they talk really fast at the end of the medication, you can get these fungal infections. Well, surprise, I got one. And so you're in the hospital on your back and you're like, whoa, now what? So then it was a journey for, I would say, a good 5 to 7 years of having to rebuild from that place. Because it was like on oxygen, might not make it kind of scenario. So I had got myself to that burnt out, like that bad. So it was a year of medication just to get rid of a fungal infection. And then it was seeking help to like, how did I get here? How did this happen? What went on? What did I do? Got nutritional support, had to start with functional medicine doctors, just all the things. And then after about, I don't know, was it 3 or 4 years, fully in remission, no longer have rheumatoid arthritis, no longer on any medications, and have grown to a life that I love and thrive in and survive and do it with margin now because I don't want to go back to where I was.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. It's interesting that the aspect in how it showed up for you in such a drastic physical way before you even recognized what was happening, just overall in your life and the impact that had.
Yeah. And I'm certain, and I like I said, I've listened to your podcast and heard others talk about, just being angry and short-tempered and all the things, and all of that was part of all of this too.
Yeah.
But it came with, I was elected at the time. And so I just thought it was, the additional stress of the job, just, not getting enough sleep. So I chalked it up to a lot of things that I just thought were part of it. I mean, we didn't even really get to eat well. I mean, there was like candy on all the desks for your nighttime snack at the Capitol and just a lot of garbage. And looking backwards, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe first I survived it in the first place. And then when it actually occurred and I got sick, I was like, oh yeah. But what's really fascinating is, so that's one layer of stress, but then there was another layer that piled on top that I really hadn't processed. And when the year one I got elected, a huge flood came through our town and wiped out 3,500 homes, a whole boatload of businesses, wiped out the power grid. And so I got elected in a year of a flood. And so my entire career as an elected official was about rebuilding this town, and never took time to even stop and process that. Like the disaster stress on top of the workload and all of that. And so the chronic illness came with that. And so the rheumatoid arthritis and stuff all came with that disaster once elected. And so it was like these compounding stressors. So my body was telling me with the chronic illness, hey, you need to slow down and figure this out. But I didn't have a doctor that even said that. They just were like, here's the medication. And I took it and I felt better, but it didn't actually address any of it. Yeah. And so, now thinking back, I'm like, wow, how did we not talk about any of this? Right. It's like, how did we just be like, here's a medication and you'll feel better? And I'm like, that is so wrong. So now I really think about that. And like when I'm working with people, I missed every warning sign, not even here's the kicker. I'm a therapist. I mean, I missed everything. And so I'm like, whoa, so my body just decided, well, you're going to rest. So this is what's going to take to get you to rest. Okay, you're resting. And boy, howdy, I got to rest a long time. Yeah. So yeah, just crazy to me that I didn't see it at all. I mean, and I was trained to see it, blind to the whole thing.
That is such an interesting thing to bring up, Renee, because I think it's so true for so many people that work in a helping profession of some kind, whether it be therapy or social work or healthcare or even law enforcement and those kinds of things. It's that we're trained to see those things in other people, but so often we fail to recognize what's going on for ourselves.
Yeah. And because I wasn't in a ball, weeping, crying in tears or whatever, I didn't even process that there was chaos and stress. I don't know. I don't know what signs I would have been looking for, but boy, I didn't know any of this. And so by the time, you fast forward a bunch of years and you start feeling better and you get out of remission and you go looking into, well, why did I get this chronic illness to begin with? And you start looking at that and I'm like, well, that should have been obvious. But I'm telling you, there was not one professional in my life, and I don't avoid professionals. I have professional circles. I have other therapist friends and coaches and not one mentioned any of it. And I'm like, how did we all miss it?
Mm-hmm.
And so I first just want to, for listeners, don't beat yourself up if you missed it and you're burnt out, because that's a thing. And I think it's just, looking back, it's just, I'm a helper by trade. And then that flood hit, I didn't think about me. I thought about all the people who lost houses and jobs. And so I just went to work and do what we all do and kept going because I was in better shape than they were. So just buried my head and went. And so when you come up on the other side years later, your body is just done. And you're like, wait, I was just helping people. And so lucky for me, or unlucky, I don't know, but I had a long time to think about how I got there because I was really, really sick. So then you have a ways to like, okay, what are we going to do differently? Because I'm not repeating this. I have a really large goal of not going back to the hospital. So that requires a lot of change. And
Absolutely.
That's been the last 5-7 years.
Yeah. What were some of the first steps that you took to implement that change for yourself?
It's such a great question. So immediately I listened to doctors and started taking care of the physical pieces because it was the physical body falling apart. So I had to prioritize that. So I had a heart-to-heart with my rheumatologist and said, look, you may think I'm crazy, but my goal is to not have to be dependent upon medication forever. So what can I do? He had not a lot of faith or hope that I would get there, but I'm like, that's okay. But what would it look like if I could?
Yeah.
And so that really I had to start like with nutrition and supplements and just putting things back into my body that I had let go. And now I was a good exerciser. So I had that piece. And now after a couple of weeks in the hospital, you're pretty weak. So you have to start that and you have to do that differently. I couldn't be as intense. I couldn't do miles and stuff. That was stress on my body too. So now at the time I didn't realize that. So I had to do that slower. So I had to like recover. This will sound crazy, but I couldn't be that all the time gym person that I used to be because my body was just, everything I did like that was stress and just piling on more. So I had to relearn walking is okay, going slow. So it took like kind of shifting in a personality, be like achievement isn't everything. Work is not everything. And so I started there. So the first step was getting help, and help in my case looked like a lot of different things, right? There could be, I think through the season, there were nutritionists and personal coaches and functional medicine doctors and my regular rheumatologist and just lots of support, and kept looking. And I think that's another piece a lot of us do wrong is we look for one piece of help and we don't like it or it didn't help and then we quit. And when you find one therapist, you've met one therapist. When you found one doctor, you've met one doctor. I fired a few doctors. They don't take it personally. They have a pretty busy caseload, but you have to keep working and find that. So it's more for me was the goal. I had to set a goal that said, hey, I'm getting healthy, and then be open to ask for help of any and all types of people that could get there. And so that was the first step. It was, how do I get help and realize, and I had no choice. I was in a mess. So then it's like, okay, there's no question. Did I need help? Oh yeah, we needed help. So then it was, who could help and start putting those people into place, and then trying strategy after strategy after strategy and just building back health.
Yeah. Couple of things there that you said that I really want to highlight for our listeners. And I think the one piece that was really impactful for me to just remember is that you said achievement isn't everything, work isn't everything. And really keeping that in mind when we are facing burnout or, getting into that recovery, because it is a shift. It is when you have to, you talked about with the working out and having to go at a slower pace. I've definitely worked with a number of people who that's one of their biggest struggles is recognizing what their life looks like in this slower pace. And that can be really challenging.
It can be. And another piece for me was setting really clear boundaries, and boundaries for what a lot of people think are about people and relationships. I'm not talking about those boundaries. I'm talking about personal boundaries. Like you're going to bed at this time of night, every night, and going to get this many hours of sleep every night, the end. And I had to set parameters around things that had gotten out of hand. And so it was sleep. There's certain foods, certain things I shouldn't eat, can't eat, needed to put some parameters, some boundaries on that. I can't, I know you're not supposed to just X out foods out of your life, or so goes the theory, but there's certain foods in my life I can't do in moderation. I just cannot. And so I've had to cross them off. And so there were things that's like, okay, I just tell myself, you are not allowed, you can't handle yourself, so you don't deserve to have that. But I've had to like make some, nutritional decisions. Like these are certain things that your body cannot do. Sorry, you like it. And so those boundaries were a big piece, and nutrition and sleep were two major ones for me. And that then requires, you have to shift like how late you're out at night and what you do at night. And if you're drinking alcohol, because that impacts your sleep. If you're drinking caffeine, it impacts your sleep. So you have to think about things differently, so that if the goal had to be sleep, because my body had to repair itself. And the only way it was going to do that is through sleep. And so I had to figure out like the hormones and all of the mess that I had created. I had created a hot mess. And through all that too, another surprise in that, this will be a fun fact, but during my 2-week hospitalization, I lost my gallbladder to gangrene. It was full of gangrene.
Oh, wow.
And that wasn't why I was sick.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Wow. And so they took it out like the first day or two I was in the hospital. And I'll never forget, the doctor came back in and said, hey, we took that out. It was over 50% full of gangrene. So we're glad we took it out, but that's not why you're sick. And I'm like, what kind of sick am I? What does this mean? Right. And so I had to learn how to live without a gallbladder, but I don't know what that's like, because that was all in the midst of all the other mess. So people say, well, what's it like? How would I know? I missed all of it. So I'm like, I don't know. I can't tell you how life is with or without, because I don't remember. So it was just a very fascinating mess that I can put back the story now and go, oh, these are the things that could have been different.
Yeah.
So, but boundaries have been a massive piece of my success moving forward. Is there's just certain things I'm not going to do anymore.
You highlighted something that was really important there in regard to setting those boundaries for yourself. And that is the aspect that you have to make adjustments in order to meet those boundaries for yourself, in order to meet those standards that you set for yourself. And I think that is one of the pieces that can be really hard for us in creating new habits, because we're trained a certain way, or we want to do it a certain way, or we don't want to give up certain things in that aspect. And knowing that in order to achieve that boundary for ourselves, for our health, we have to make those accommodations and adjustments in our lives.
Right. Yeah. It's not easy. But sleep became absolutely not optional. And that's one of the pieces looking back that I can tell without any doubt was the biggest driver to a whole lot of it. And part of it was the job I had and the expectations and all of that, which I couldn't have changed. And so in that space, I would have had to figure out a different way to do it. But since my job and every life bit changed and had to start a new direction, after the health crash, I was like, okay, I'm going to put together a life that prioritizes this and had to prioritize some margin. And, and other boundaries are like working evenings and weekends. That's not a thing. I had to learn how to have hobbies, and that'll sound crazy to some people, but like how to have fun and to do things that's not work.
Yeah.
Because for me, if I had extra time, I could work a little more because I loved work.
Yeah.
And my body's just like, you need to do other things. So a lot of that became more activities. And I bike long distances now. I have a trike. It's a recumbent trike that I've named Rhonda, because when I have to go uphill, she needs to help, right? Help me, Rhonda.
Help me, Rhonda.
So,
I love that.
Right.
Help me, Rhonda. Yeah,
that's right. So I have a trike, and I can't do two-wheel bike as well. And part of that is just how my body works, and too much pressure on wrists and things, but I still have some lingering challenges with some of those issues. So I've had to be adaptive in what I'm willing to do. And so it's not the vision, the goal. I can't do spin classes. There's just things I can't do, but my body does a lot of other things. So it's not focused on the things I can't do. It's like, okay, well, what can you do? What do you enjoy? I love water. Water's great for any kind of inflammation stuff. So I spend a lot of time there. So it's just trying to find out, okay, what can your body do? How can you celebrate your body in a way that's healthy, that isn't go, go, go. Because I can't do like the crazy long aerobics classes anymore, the big spin classes. My body, the stress about that just doesn't do. But I can do long distance bike riding because, it's more of a pace of your heart rate. It's not the intensity stuff. And I can do way more today now that I've rebuilt my health than I could back then. But it took a long time. I mean, you'll think this is funny, but I remember going back to the gym after I was really sick, and a successful day at the gym might have been get in the hot tub, sit in the sauna, take a shower, and go home, because that's all I could do. And I mean, it got to that point. It was like, I'm just going to go to the gym, and then maybe I'll do something. And, I can maybe float. I mean, I remember just days of like, it's all I got. And it took so long for my body just to get back to health. And so you just had to work with it, because it wasn't going to work without you. And if you tried too hard, it was crazy. I was so sick that if I worked too hard, I would just hit a wall and almost like fall asleep. So my body would just be like, yep, that was too much. You're done. So I was like, okay. So my body just is like, well, you get this much, work with it or don't, and build from there. Really interesting.
Thank you, Renee, so much for sharing that aspect. And I think how you went about like recreating your life in regard to this, this physical aspect and the need to, and that piece. If you were to leave our audience members with one additional piece of advice, what would that be?
I really think that there's, when you've had such a big struggle or challenge in your life, you often want to focus on what used to be. And you have to be grateful for what is. And gratitude has changed everything. Being grateful for everything I can do, for everything I have today, is everything. And I think we forget that. I think we always want what we used to have. And sometimes you can't have that back. And that's okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, being grateful for what is and what you have in this moment. Thank you so much for being on the show, Renee. I know our listeners have gained so much from listening to you today.
I appreciate being here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. How amazing to hear from Renee and her story, and so impactful in the aspect of really recreating your life in order to live at a slower pace, to live at a pace that keeps you from having that large impact of burnout like she did in that physical sense in that regard. And the reconnection of finding hobbies and activities that aren't connected to our work and space. So listeners, I hope that you are spending a little bit of time reflecting today on what you're grateful for in this moment. We're going to move into our recovery moment. And before we do, I want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, leave a 5-star review, and be sure to share this with a friend who you think might find value in listening to this. Today, we are going to do a body scan that is actually one of my favorites and I have used for a long time, and I call it Sand Person. And so this is meant to bring you some relaxation and a release of tension in your body. And it's best done in a quiet space, either sitting or lying down. So if that's not where you are right now, continue to listen, but come back to this meditation when you have the moment to do so in that regard. So let's get started. Let's get started with our recovery moment. Take a moment to go ahead and put yourself into a comfortable position. We're going to start with a nice deep breath in through your nose, and then out through an open mouth. Continue to breathe, and on your next exhale, allow your eyes to close. One more inhale. And a nice long exhale. Bring your awareness into your body. Feel the weight of your body on your chair or where you are lying down. Take a breath in and send your breath to any space that you notice is holding tension right now. Continue to breathe and let your breath ease into a natural cycle. In and out. In and out. In and out. Now, I want you to imagine that your body is being filled with sand, starting at your toes, filling up through your feet, filling through your ankles, feeling in your calves, your knees and thighs, your legs getting heavier and heavier as the sand continues to flow in and fill every part of your body as it fills in your back and belly, up through your chest, neck, and finally your face and head. As the sand fills your body, you feel heavier and heavier, and lifting any part of your body is hard because of that extra weight. Continue to breathe. You are safe and grounded. The weight is simply just there. Take a moment, breathe in and out. Really connect and feel the heaviness of the weight of your body, feeling secure and grounded in connection with where you are sitting or laying down. Now, imagine that you have a very small hole at the base of your spine, and as that hole opens, you start to feel the sand slowly pour out of you. Now, starting with your left leg, feel the sand pour out and away from your body, your leg becoming lighter and lighter as the sand pours away. So light that it feels as though it could just float right off the ground, right away from you. Now, focus on your right leg, feeling the sand pour out and away from your body, your leg becoming lighter and lighter as the sand pours away. So light that it feels like your leg could just float away. Next, think about your left arm, feeling the sand pour out and away from your body, out through your upper arm and your lower arm, your hand and each of your fingers, your arm becoming lighter and lighter as the sand pours away, so light that it could just float away. Focus on your right arm, feeling the sand pour out and away from your body, your arm becoming lighter and lighter, so light that it feels like it could just float away. Now the sand starts to pour out of your head, neck, and shoulders, all feeling lighter and lighter, and any tension you have pours out with the sand. Your face becomes relaxed, your shoulders soften, your jaw has no tension, and your tongue is away from the roof of your mouth. The tension in your neck is gone. Focus now on the sand pouring out of your torso, your chest feeling lighter and lighter, the tension in your belly leaving with the sand as it all pours out through the hole in your back. As the last few grains of sand pour out of your body, notice that sensation of lightness throughout your whole body. Hold and honor that sense of release. Take a breath in through your nose and out. One more, in through your nose and out. noticing that you're able to take an even deeper breath because there's more space in your chest and belly as it feels so light because the weight has been removed. One more nice big deep breath in and a long exhale out. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes and come back into the present space, looking at your surroundings and reconnecting with the present moment. Remember, for more recovery moments, you can follow me at Dr. Kate Steiner on Instagram, and be sure to subscribe to the From Burnout to Recovery Show YouTube channel. I'm so grateful to our guest, Renee Schulte, and I am grateful, as always, to each of you for listening. Thank you for joining us on the From Burnout to Recovery Show with Dr. Kate on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Kate, and I wish you peace on your journey. Thank you for joining me on the front porch today. Remember that you can download your free Burnout to Recovery Reflection Journal on my website, drkatesteiner.com. Be well, my friends. Thank you for joining me, Dr. Kate, on the From Burnout to Recovery Show, where you are starting your journey to burnout recovery. You are invited to join me on the front porch every second and fourth Friday of the month on transformationtalkradio.com to continue growing in resilience and integrating recovery into your daily life. If you would like to learn more or find out how to work with me, visit liftwellnessconsulting.com.